Hey, you're watching Half Asian Tarot Queen. I am Lisa, here to do a reading. And I think I'm going to start with this Shaman's Dream Oracle. I won one of these there was like a drawing from Colette Brown Reed, did a vision board workshop. I'm super excited. Like, I got so much out of that, and I made my vision board, and it turned out I'm super happy with how it turned out, but also I think I can already see the positive impact that's having. So I have never done one of those before, but I think I'll probably be doing one every year from now on because it's so magical. So anyways, I won this deck, but I already had it, so I gave it to someone as a gift. And spreading the love. Okay, so I did a split, and I got Me Talks, repairing the body, mind, and spirit. Which is interesting. It's got this person, they're taking a bath, and but also it sounds like detox. And we got Netcaster, preparations come to fruition. Wow. So really, kind of like what I just got from this combination is just sort of like this person, and it's funny that this would come out when I was talking about my vision board. It's like this person sort of like sent all the intentions out into the world, and they've kind of done the work. So at this point, they're just taking a self-care moment because something's about to come to fruition, but it's almost like they don't really need to do anything at this point except to take the self-care moment to bring their vibration up to this new thing, that's really where they need to focus. The hard work has already kind of happened in a way. Okay, I'm gonna go to the angels and ancestors and see what we get there. I'm going to do one little shuffle. Okay. Oh my gosh, this was at the bottom of the deck when I pulled it out, and I put it back in, and it's still at the bottom. Okay. Peacekeeper, let go of the need to be right. And then I got Elder, move beyond ancestral patterns. Wow. It's interesting because there have been a lot of, there's been a lot coming up lately about healing ancestral patterns and breaking through this. And it's funny because I just happened to glimpse this on the internet right before I started this, but what this made me think of was I saw this thing about, so there's this dispute that's kind of brewing in the estate of Lisa Marie Presley. And it said something about how, the granddaughter had made a statement that she was sad that her grandmother was going against the wishes of her mom, and, in her world, it makes sense. She's technically right. Those were her mom's wishes. But at the same time, her mom died really young, and her mom probably wasn't counting on her mom still being alive when she died, because that's usually how it works, But because this freak thing happened, she ended up dying before her mom. So she was probably planning on she did her planning, just not really counting on that being the case. So while the granddaughter is technically right, the grandmother might not have a way of sustaining herself in her old age, which, that's not right either, So it's they need to move beyond this sort of ancestral pattern and kind of do what's best for everyone in the end, you know, like that's kind of what has to happen in moving forward. So it's like, yeah, obviously stuff's happened that's not right, you know, but at the end of the day, the grandmother still needs to be taken care of, and the grandkids need to be taken care of, and, you know, it didn't happen according to plan, and that's just how life goes sometimes. It's interesting too that we have this white buffalo calf woman. She's holding a knife. She's got to let go of the need to be right. So that's interesting. Okay, that's an interesting message from the ancestors. I'm gonna go to the sacred forest, see what we get here, because it's like sometimes it's just like, you know, you can fight and fight until the cows come home and everyone can be right, you know, depending on how you look at the situation. But it's like, do you want to spend your whole life fighting, or do you just want to move on? You know, it's like, you know, like people who fight over the estate until there's nothing left of the estate, you know, and then it's just like, what's the point, you know? It's kind of like that. Yeah. Okay. So we got air spirits, knowledge, and we got water spirit, manifesting dreams. Interesting. Wow. So what I just got just now, it's like we have this here on the top, you know, we've got this conflict that the angels and ancestors are speaking of, and then we also have this person who's like manifesting dreams on the other side. You know, this person has knowledge. They're like, I'm kind of getting that that person is kind of being, it's like their vibration is higher, like they're being lifted out of the situation, the ancestral patterning, like they're just above it. Like that's kind of what happened. Like they've got their own thing going on, and that's gonna lift them out of the situation. Okay, I'm gonna go to the Transient Light Tarot. And we're gonna pick some cards to see. So I've been doing the light and the shadow decks. So, oh, we got a couple things that just came out. Okay. Interesting. So we got the two of vessels. So this can be like a soulmate connection. It can also be a situation of sort of like reconciling, you know, integrating sort of two halves of a whole. But what I'm getting here, so we have the Queen of Cups, which is the Champion of Vessels here. But what's interesting is we have this backpack and we have this bird, this crow, which typically represents the truth. So it's interesting that we have that with this Champion of Vessels. Actually, this might be the Knight of Cups. This backpack and this truth. So this person is like, it's like they're going on a voyage and they've got the truth and they've got their backpack, you know. And they're all packed up, but they're ready to go. And we have this Seven of Coins, which, you know, the Seven of Coins, it's like you've kind of planted your seeds and you're like waiting for your harvest to happen, you know. But sometimes like you get like 7/10 of the way down the road and you realize you might have to do some weeding, or you might have to adjust your plans a little bit to get all the way to the 10. And so that's kind of what this 7 is, you know. It's like, it's almost like sometimes things, unplanned things come up that you have to deal with. Like, for example, sometimes you got to take care of grandma because nobody really expected grandma to outlive like the rest of the family, you know. And that, sometimes that happens, you know, and you gotta take care of things, you know. This person is like, it's like they're traveling light, you know. They've got the truth on their side. They're traveling light. They're not carrying a bunch of bags around. They realize that they need to make some adjustments, but we got the Five of Swords here, which is like, it's almost like there's this transformation, but it's like this person's got to kind of cut their losses, because it's just like, it's almost like there's just like too much energy being spent on like dysfunction, like, and this person needs to travel lighter than this because it's like holding them back, you know. And that's what needs to be adjusted in order to move forward. Like, it's like some losses need to be cut here, and that's what's gonna like allow this person to be like lifted out of this situation. It's just like, you know, sometimes you get in arguments with people who are just like entirely unreasonable, and you can't speak any sense to them, and there's not really any way to have a rational conversation or meet in the middle. Like, this person is just, I have to win, I have to have my way, and they won't let it go. And there's, you know, you're at this impasse because nothing, you can't move past that, you know. And the thing is like, sometimes when you get to that, it's just like, and you know they're wrong, and everybody can see that they're wrong, but like, it's not worth the energy to argue with them. So you just have to let them be right, but you also can cut your losses and just like move on. And that's the win. You know, the win is that you get to move on and not have these people in your environment anymore. You're gonna have to cut your losses, and that's how you win, you know. That's kind of what I'm getting from this. So anyways, okay, so we got the Three of Pentacles at the bottom. It's interesting that there's these 3 pentacles and these wands. This is like a new foundation. It's forging a new partnership. We have the 10 of Pentacles under this person who's traveling light and has the truth on their side. This person is, they're going to get to the 10, you know, because they know they need to make this adjustment. They need to cut their losses, but eventually they're going to get to the 10 because they do have the truth on their side, and they aren't lugging all this baggage with them. Like, they're staying in alignment with the truth, you know. But we have the 5 of Pentacles, which, you know, this speaks to a loss. Underneath the 7 of Coins. So obviously there is an adjustment that has to happen. And it's interesting because that we have the loss here, because it's like there's this whole thing about having to cut your losses. And then we have the Wayfarer, which it's like, this represents like the Lovers in the normal deck, but it's interesting because it's like this single woman, and it's Eve, and there's this apple and this snake, and there's this balance between good and evil and light and dark. And that's interesting, I think, because we have the 2 of Cups and we have the Lovers, and there's all this like reconciling, like the shadow and the light. And you know, somebody here has done this work, you know, but it's like almost like, in order to move beyond this ancestral pattern, like they're going to have to cut their losses, because there is no way to reason with unreasonable. And enough time has been spent on this, and this person has already learned the lesson that they were supposed to learn from this situation. And so it's just sort of like, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day if you're right or the wrong. What matters is if you learned the lesson, you know, like the thing with the grandkids and the grandma, you know. It's just like, well, technically, legally, like, the kids are in the right and the grandma's in the wrong, but is it right to, like, leave your grandma stranded with nothing, you know? That's another thing, you know? I mean, there's all these ways that you can look at it, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're right or if you're wrong. What matters is what is right and what is wrong, you know? Not if you're right or you're wrong, if that makes any sense. So, but, you know, that said, if grandma did something super shady and, like, tried to screw over the grandkids, well, then that's something different, you know? Like, that's something different. So these are all kind of hypotheticals. But what I'm seeing here is there is this one person who's on the side of the truth. They're being weighed down by all this ancestral patterns, baggage, and they've learned the lesson that they were supposed to learn. Like, they see the pattern, and it's time to cut their losses, because they don't really, they've learned this lesson. They don't need to keep going in this loop over and over again. Like, there's no benefit that's going to come from that. And so it's like, there's no need to even invest energy in fighting about it, because it's just, yeah, I just pulled out the work your light, and I've never even gotten this card before, and it's like, no. I've never gotten this card before. Wait, postpone, pause, say no. Like, I don't need this, you know? And we have Pillar of Light. Your vibration is rising. You are the oracle. So it's like, no to the generational pattern. Your vibration is higher than this. So yeah, it's almost like, you know, in the case of Elvis, it's like, it's really sad how Elvis, like, had all this gift, you know, but at the same time, like, he was kind of bogged down by all these, like, other people's making money off of him, and he, like, he kind of got, like, almost, like, eaten up, you know, by, like, other people's demands. And, like, maybe if he had boundaries, you know, who knows? Like, maybe Elvis would still be alive, and then they wouldn't even be fighting about it, you know? So, anyways, long story short, what we're getting is, sometimes it's not worth sticking around to argue with people. If you've learned your lesson, just say no and just move on. Cut your losses, vibrate higher, and you'll end up where you're supposed to be.